Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tik-A Tee Method YouTube channel. My name is Ron Castonguay, longtime educator, composer, author, conductor, clinician, and performer. So glad you're here with us today. We're going to dive right into my book, Rhythmic Sight-Reading, the Tik-A Tee Method, with week 1. We're also going to talk about the 4 basic words that we use for verbiage in the Tik-A Tee Method as we vocalize our rhythms, and we're going to discuss how to access the 363 MP3s. So I hope you'll stick around for the video. We're going to kick things off with week 1. Let's go do this. So as many of you already know, my book progresses from really basic, really easy rhythms to understand and progresses in a scaffolded way up through advanced rhythms, advanced time signatures, complex time signatures, compound time signatures, faster tempo, so forth and so on, and more concepts. But we're going to start today with week 1 in the same way that we would start this book if we were beginning to read music notation and understand how time signatures and rhythm work. So as you navigate your way to the table of contents in my book, you'll notice that it's organized as a 36-week curriculum. Each week is comparable to a chapter, for example, but you could take as little or as long as you want on each chapter depending on where you're coming in. So for the purpose of these videos, video number 1, which is this one, we'll start with week 1, the very basic understanding of common time in 4/4. And you can see here, there it is. Week 1 starts on page 20. So that's where we're going to start today. So as you navigate from the table of contents to week 1, you'll notice that just preceding week 1, there are 4 pages of words. This is the verbiage that we use to vocalize rhythms in the Tik-A Tee method. So I just want to talk about that real quick before we dive into week 1. The words that we use in the Tik-A Tee method are not recreating the wheel by any stretch. I am not taking credit for creating these words. What I have done, however, over the course of 25 plus years of teaching all different types of music ensembles, from strings to orchestra, from band to jazz band, from chorus to chamber ensembles, is I've realized that we need a system, a method for reading rhythms that is consistent across all of those ensembles that work at all levels, from elementary through middle school, through high school, through college, and beyond. So I believe that this method works best for music educators. It also works best for students. The first syllable that we come across in the Tik-A Tee method is ta. Now, start off by saying there are 2 ways to really say this. T-A-H, ta, 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 or the more vertical vowel of chorus, T-A-W, ta, 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 ta. Both work. Obviously, the latter one is a little bit more musical, is a little bit more relatable to chorus and to singing, which, let's face it, instruments are just extensions of our voices anyway. It's best if we did that one. But either one of them work. The important part with this syllable is for students to understand that ta lasts for a quarter note all the way down to the longest note that you could possibly sing in any given time signature. I have tried the ta, 2, 3, 4, for example, for a whole note, but I realize that's still too much. We want to make this minimalistic for students so that they can wrap their heads around a rhythmic vocalization method quickly. So by just holding the ta out for the full value of the whole note, ta, it makes a lot more sense for students right away. And this gives us, the educators, the responsibility to teach them about lengths of notes and note values in specific time signatures. The pages that follow ta, we have 8th notes, T, 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 T. We'll get into those in the appropriate week. We have 16th notes, Tik-A, 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 and some other more advanced subdivisions that come out later in the book. And we have triplets, trip-ball-let, 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 8th note triplets, quarter note triplets, even half note triplets. These are the 4 basic words that we use to vocalize rhythms in the Tik-A Tee method. And we'll get into all of them. But as promised, we're going to dive into week 1 today, so let's go. Week 1's concepts are straightforward. We talk about the 4/4 time signature. We talk about whole notes, half notes, quarter notes. We also talk about whole rests, half rests, and quarter rests, as well as bar lines, a measure line, a final bar line, a double bar line. In the middle of the page, you'll see a friendly reminder of what the 4/4 time signature means. So let's go over that. The top number in 4/4 means that there are 4 beats in the measure. The bottom number, another 4, represents a quarter note. That's telling us that the quarter note will receive 1 beat. Therefore, the 4/4 time signature means that there are 4 beats in every single measure, and that the quarter note receives 1 beat. The notes that we'll be going over in week 1 are the quarter note, the half note, and the whole note. A quarter note, as we just mentioned in 4/4 time, receives 1 beat. A half note, a longer duration and twice as long as a quarter note, receives 2 beats. A whole note, twice as long as a half note, receives 4 beats, and that's the full value of a measure in 4/4 time. The rests that are included in week 1 are the same duration as the notes, except they represent silence. So we have the quarter rest, the half rest, and the whole rest. And just like their partners, the notes, they receive 1 beat, 2 beats for a half rest, and 4 beats, so an entire measure of rest, for a whole rest. And the final topic is bar lines, and we use 2 out of 3 of these in our music right away. The first one is simple. It's just a single bar line or measure line. This separates our measures. So in 4/4, we have 4 beats, bar line, 4 beats, bar line. This helps us as human beings compartmentalize musical phrases and better understand how they're represented in the time signature. A final bar line is the one that's used at the end of a song, or in these cases, the end of our exercises. So at the last measure, you'll notice that there'll be a final bar line there. The double bar line is representative of a new section of music. Maybe there's a new time signature, maybe there's a new key signature. Anything that's new in the music, a double bar line will be used. We won't see these until later in the book, but it's introduced here. Now let's look at exercise 1A, and let's notice a few things. The first thing we notice is the 4/4 time signature. That's our common time signature, which we just discussed. 4 beats in a measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. The next thing you'll notice is that in this 8-measure exercise, there are no rests. There are only whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. Then, above the first 4 measures, the top line, I've listed the beats for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. This is to help you begin to compartmentalize and divide the measures up so you can see where the beats are happening, where the notes are happening, and where the metronome is clicking. The last thing that we'll notice is that all of the words are written in for you. However, they're more there to help you know when to say the note than they are what to say, because the syllable remains ta for the entire exercise. Before we start practicing exercise 1A, I want to go over the instructions and the suggestions that precede all of the exercises and every week in the book, including the bonus weeks. They change slightly as you get through the book, but for the most part, they're pretty consistent. So let's go through those quickly. The first thing you'll notice is the metronome. You need to have a metronome clicking behind you as you're doing these exercises. If we're going to practice having good rhythm, we have to practice having good time, and the metronome will keep us honest and keep us accurate. I have the suggested tempo here of 62 to 72. In the MP3s, I think I do them at 68. You can go slower or faster depending on your level. The second thing, study the exercise for the first 10 to 20 seconds. So as I was talking through the exercise a moment ago, I was talking about the time signature, noticing there were no rests, noticing the words were there, the numbers were above the beats. This gives you an opportunity for 10 to 20 seconds, as the suggested time is, to look at an exercise before you actually try it. Sight reading is sight reading, but you still get some time to maybe look over a piece of music before you have to actually perform it. The third thing, speak or sing the exercise on ta. So in these exercises in week 1, all of the syllables that we'll be using are ta, or if there's rests, silence. So the only syllable you need to think about is ta in this one. Breathe whenever necessary without disrupting the rhythm. So in an 8-measure excerpt at, let's say, 68 beats per minute, 68 on the metronome, it's going to be really hard to sing all 8 measures on one breath. So the intention is to say the exercise accurately, breathe where you need to, while still maintaining integrity and accuracy in the rhythm that's written. Number 5. Once the rhythm is sung or said accurately, and I do suggest singing it, we'll get into that in a minute, play the rhythm on your instrument. So if singing isn't your quote-unquote instrument, then you need to say this, you need to sing this, and then you need to pick up your instrument, decide on a pitch and how you want to actually perform it, and you need to perform this on your instrument, whether it's bowing on a string instrument, whether you're tonguing on a wind instrument, so forth and so on. It needs to be performed on your instrument so that you're bringing relevance into your musical world. Number 6, be sure to master each new rhythmic concept before going on to the next week. So this is where it comes down to your speed. However fast you want to get through the weeks or the chapters is up to you. Go as fast or as slow as you need to, but don't move on to the next topic until you've mastered this topic. You could also increase the tempo per number 7 to make sure that you really get this. And if you could do these exercises a little bit faster of tempo, then that means you probably have it down. But if you don't, go back and review. And then the last thing here is for string and percussion musicians or anybody that can actually say an exercise while they play their instrument. This is more of an advanced concept, but if you can sing or say the rhythm while you're playing your instrument, and this works specifically well for keyboardists, for percussionists, for string instruments, you can actually perform these rhythms on your instrument while at the same time singing or saying them. It connects more synapses in the brain and really helps you connect more to the concepts and to the rhythms in the exercises. All right, let's try exercise 1A. You'll need a couple of things before you can start. First, you'll need a metronome per the instructions. You want to make sure that you are practicing good rhythm, but also practicing good time. Very important. And if your metronome has the capability of accenting the downbeat of every measure, that's also really beneficial. Whether you're a beginning musician or an advanced musician, having that extra click, knowing you're at the beginning of a new measure, is really super helpful, especially when you're sight reading. When I created the MP3s, I actually used Logic Pro and the orchestral instruments in there to create a metronome. But even when I did that, regardless of what time signature I was writing the exercises in, I always put a little bit of an accent on the downbeat of every measure. Another metronome that's really great that I would like to suggest, a little tangent here, is Tonal Energy. I really suggest this. I suggest it to my students. It's a great app. I do not work for them. I'm not sponsored by them. But Tonal Energy, go check it out. It's not only a metronome with all of these capabilities, but it's also a tuner. It's just a fantastic tool for musicians. So go check that out. The next thing that you'll need is an instrument to give you a pitch. Here I have a keyboard. I like to do these exercises on G3. It's comfortable for my voice. But I also noticed that G3 was a note that all of my students could sing relatively easily in all my classes, whether it's strings or band or jazz band or chorus or whatever it may be. G3 seemed to work really well. Now, if you have students with extraordinarily low voices, they of course could just go down to the G2. If you have people that have extraordinarily high voices and they're more comfortable on the G4, then by all means, that works as well. But that G general pitch seems to work really nicely with students. So most of the exercises in the book, you'll notice I sing on a G3. So the plan right now is for me to turn the metronome on, give us our pitch. I'm going to count off exercise 1A right here, and we're going to try exercise 1A together. So here we go. I've changed the screen a little bit just so that it's easier for you to see. The metronome screen is a little bit larger, the exercise is a little bit larger, but we're still going to do exercise 1A. So the goal here is to turn the metronome on. We're going to be doing it at 72 beats per minute. So when the metronome is clicking, every single beat will represent a quarter note. So 2 beats would be a half note, 4 beats would be a whole note. When you do this exercise, you want to breathe whenever you need to. I may even breathe every measure just to show you that you can still maintain the integrity of the exercise and breathe as often as you need to. So the idea is to be accurate, maintain the integrity, and just breathe whenever you need to. We are going to be singing this exercise as well on that G3. So I hope that you'll match my pitch the best that you can, whether it's a G2 or a G4, totally up to you. But if you can match that G, that would be great. Side caveat to that point, I am not a professional vocalist. I am not a professional singer, and you will hear that. I am a saxophonist, but I believe doing all of these exercises on a pitch to bring as much relevance to our musical world, as I said before, as possible. And when you do these exercises on a pitch, you're realizing that these are just rhythms that may occur in any melodic excerpt that we may perform. So let's get the show on the road here. I'm going to turn the metronome on, give us our pitch, and count us off. So as you're hearing that little extra ding on beat 1, right there. The Boss DB90 has that capability, which is great. I can even make it louder if I wanted to. So that's the metronome click that we're going to be doing. And like I said, every one of these beats is a quarter note. Okay, we're in 4/4 time. Okay, here's our note. That's the G3 that I'm going to be singing it to the best of my ability on, and I hope that you will be joining me. So I'm going to count us off, and then you can sing along with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. So thank you for joining me, and I'm sure you believe me now. I am not a professional singer, but again, you don't have to be. The idea is to just do these exercises as musically as you can and try to get all these rhythms accurate. Now, you'll notice in the last measure, I've got this little thing here that says hold all the way to beat 1. Really important that we emphasize holding notes full value. So that last whole note gets its full 4 beats and cuts off on this invisible beat 1 at the end of the piece. So even though you're taking quick breaths, and you'll notice, like I said, I breathed at the end of every measure just to show you that you can breathe wherever you need to breathe and still stay with the metronome. But we want to make sure all of our long notes, these whole notes here, are held full value, or as full value as we possibly can if we don't need to breathe at the end of those measures. So very, very important. So now we've just done the exercise. You've done the exercise with me. But what if you're home alone? What if you don't know if you did it correctly? Well, that's where the MP3s come into play. So at the end of the exercise, to make sure that you did it correctly, you can go check for accuracy by accessing one of the 363 MP3s that supplement this book. And I'm going to show you how to access those MP3s and how to check for accuracy. And you could even sing along with them as well to make sure that you're doing each exercise correctly before moving on to the next one. So let's talk about the MP3s next. So there are a couple different ways you can access the MP3s that accompany the book. The first way is to go to page 6, scan the QR code, and it takes you directly to the web page that has all of the MP3s. The second way is you could just go to my website, roncastonguay.com, click on the author clinician link, and then scroll down. That has all the MP3s there as well. Now, side note, all of these MP3s are free to the world, whether you buy the book or not. You can use them however you want. I know some AP Music Theory teachers have actually used some of these exercises as rhythmic dictation practice. So however creative you want to get. But they are there as a supplement to the book, as they are the answers to every single exercise in the book. So let me show you what this looks like once you get to the web page. So here I am on the website, on the web page that has all of them. This is what it looks like at the top, just so that you can see what it looks like towards the top. You scroll down, and you'll see where it says MP3, and I've got my disclaimer there, of course, that I am not a professional vocalist, but I still believe everyone should sing these rhythm exercises. So we just did week 1, exercise A. There it is. If we wanted to move on to B, we would just click this fast forward button right here, and then that would move us to exercise B, exercise C, so forth and so on. And then you would hear that, you would sing along, and you would see if you did it correctly. All of the exercises in the book are here. You can scroll down, you can use them however you wish. But again, the primary purpose is the answers to the exercises. So let's move on now and just go to exercise 1A and see if we did it correctly. All right, so here we are. Here's exercise 1A. And the right-hand side of the screen, your lower left-hand side is basically a screenshot of my computer. And yes, I have that many tabs open. It's kind of ridiculous. But we are going to press play on exercise 1A. And since you have the exercise there, it doesn't hurt to do it again. I'm going to play the whole thing for you, and you are welcome to sing along to the rhythm. So here we go. This is exercise 1A. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 If you sang along with me that time and got it right for a second time, you would move on to 1B, 1C, 1D, so forth and so on. So for every exercise that you get right, you move on to the next exercise. This is how the scaffolding works and is intended to work in the book. All right, we're going to try one more exercise in week 1 for this video. We're going to skip 1B, we're going to go to 1C because we want to add some rests now. So you'll notice in this exercise, as we look at it, we have half notes, we have half rests, we have quarter notes, we have a whole rest that gets 4 full beats of silence, and we have 1 quarter rest in there as well. So we want to make sure that we know when the rests are happening and when the notes are happening. So you would look at this exercise for 20 to 30 seconds, maybe briefly go through it and see where the difficult areas might be for you. Then we turn the metronome on, we give the pitch, we count it off. So you can pause the video if you want to take a look at it now for a little bit of time, but I'm going to move right into the metronome and the pitch, and we're going to try this together. So we're at 72 on the metronome again. Here's our note. I'm going to count us off, and we can do this exercise together. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, ta, ta. Ta. And you'll notice that it held notes out full value all the way to the next beat when they lasted. So this half note in measure 1 went all the way until beat 3 is where it cut off, so forth and so on. This last half note held out all the way to the invisible beat 1. We also have this little helpful reminder to look ahead. So we have a whole rest here, 4 beats. We don't want to be staring at that whole rest when we're sight reading. We want to be looking ahead at what's coming up next. And going from line to line, sometimes for new musicians, that can be really difficult. So it's always good to remember to be looking ahead when you can, especially during rest. It just makes a lot of sense. So we've done this exercise. What do we do next? Well, we go and we listen to the MP3. Did we do it correctly? So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to listen to 1C MP3. All right, here we are. We have exercise 1C here on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. We've got the web page open with the MP3s. So now we go in and we navigate over to exercise C by clicking these fast forward buttons here. So I'm going to click so I get to week 1, exercise C. Then I click on this play button and I sing along, or I just listen to it to see if I did it accurately. I always encourage my students that when they go and listen to the MP3 to certainly perform it along. So I'm going to click play and I encourage you to do the same. So here it is, week 1, exercise C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, ta, ta. Ta. And there you have it. That's exercise 1C. So if you got that correct, if you did it accurately, you were in time with the metronome and all of your rhythms were correct, then you can move on to 1D, so forth and so on. So that's how you use the exercises. That's how you use the MP3s. Thank you so much for joining me. We did some rhythmic concepts from week 1. We did a couple of exercises. I hope you joined me and sang along. If you want more, please go check out Rhythmic Sight-Reading, the Tik-A Tee Method. It's available on Amazon. It's available on my website. It's available at JW Pepper. I promise you it will help you become better sight readers, start to understand music notation more comprehensively, and start thinking about reading music as if you were reading a language. So go check it out. In the meantime, I hope that you'll click like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell and leave a comment below. I will reply to any and all comments. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.